Hey, this is just a little information, hopefully that you can use in the future. If the time comes in your life when you need something other than yourself or anybody else that you've ever met, when you're in a real bind, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever it might be, when that time comes when you don't have anything left, when you need salvation from whatever it is, I just want you to know that God does hear your prayers, whether or not you know how to pray or not. He's there all the time, waiting for you to start talking to Him, to seek Him, to reach out to Him, to want to be His child. He loves you more than you've ever loved anything, more than you've ever been loved. And I know you can't understand it right now if you haven't already experienced it. But when that time comes, just call out to Him. Just talk to Him like you would your father, your closest friend. I'll tell you a little story, my own personal experience with prayer outside of, at least outside of walking with the Lord. And it's kind of a theological debate that you could have around whether or not I was saved. I believe I was, but I was not living for the Lord. I was living for myself. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't telling anybody about Jesus. I was just, partying and just doing whatever I wanted to do. I had a lot of guilt, but it wasn't keeping me from doing it anyway. Anyway, this friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, got on cocaine so bad that he wanted to kill himself. And he was trying to OD. And he was shooting a gram of coke and a gram of methamphetamine at the same time. But his tolerance was so high that he couldn't, I guess the Lord was saving him from it. He couldn't die anyway. And it so happened that the very day that he was doing this, I felt compelled, and I hadn't seen him for a while, probably a couple months, and I don't even know how I heard that he was getting into coke that bad. I don't remember. It's been almost 20 years ago. But I felt compelled to go find this man. And when I did, I didn't know that he was trying to kill himself. That I found this out later. I just knew that I'd never seen anybody in any worse shape than he was, mentally or physically, or I guess spiritually. I convinced him to go with me to my house. And when I got to my house, no sooner than I got in the house with him and got him back to a spare bedroom, he went unconscious and was having these seizures. He was bouncing. He was unconscious, laying on his back, and he was bouncing up and down off the bed about 6 inches, his whole body, like you had him hooked up to super high electricity. And his head was hitting the headboard, and he didn't even know it. I mean, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen, and one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. Like I said, I wasn't trying to do anything as a Christian at that time. I was just doing things my own way. And without thinking about it, I didn't pray every day. I didn't pray at all at that time. Without thinking about it, I was just like, I dropped to the floor and just started begging God to save this man's life. and started making deals with him and everything. And I mean, this was one of those real moments in your life that come along so rarely. I mean, there's nothing else going on. There is nothing else in your mind. It's just you and God. And I was begging for his life. And just like that, this feeling of peace came over me, and I looked up, and he just smoothed out, and all the seizures stopped. He just relaxed and laid there, just peaceful as somebody sleeping. He didn't have to go into any kind of rehab or the hospital. I mean, he should have died right there. Come to find out, hindsight, I found out that, he probably should have died right there. God spared his life. Um, and he's a born again Christian now. If he wasn't before, I mean, he was like me. He was kind of backslidden. I guess you could say kind of is an understatement. But, I know God spared his life for a reason. And the funny thing is that he used somebody like me that wasn't even trying to live a godly life, and he heard my prayer right then, and he saved his life. So the moral of the story is, when that day comes, when that real moment comes, and there's nothing else going on in your mind, be assured that he's going to hear you. Just call out to him and start a new life. Peace be with you.